18 different streams of income and skyrocketed his net worth to over $1.5 million.
Yeah, did we mention he's 26?
Doing a bunch of different freelance work. I was like building websites, editing videos, editing podcasts, doing like copy editing.
What did you have specifically going on? What did you dive into that was like you felt comfortable enough, or was it more blind faith in yourself? What is the stream of income that, or the top 2 or 3 that bring you the most money that has allowed you to branch off into others?
Something that your audience is coming to you for, something that maybe a question that you get all the time. Like,
it's difficult to find a coach in this sphere that also is trustworthy and that doesn't cost $1 million to set us in the right direction. So
it was really hard to find a 1% rural property. So my buddy who invests told me, he's like, dude, look over the line, like check out Connecticut and Rhode Island. It's $200,000, maybe $300,000 a year, or have $1 million net worth. So you do need to pass those hurdles in order to invest, kind of like syndications, most syndications anyway.
It's not the graphics in like the presentation as much on the podcast. It's building the email list, having funnels in like digital products. We don't have any of that.
I realized at that point that I did not have to trade my time for money. I could build passive income systems.
What do you want your legacy to be? So basically, why do you get out of bed every morning to do what you do? What's your like overarching why? Welcome back to the Weekly Juice. As always, it's your boys, Ryan and Corey. It's Wednesday. You know the vibes. Special guest for today's episode is Cody Berman. He is the co-host of The Fi Show, which is an incredible podcast that talks all things financial independence. It has over 1 million downloads. So another awesome resource for you guys to listen to when you're done with this show. But when we interviewed Cody today, we got to hear his story of how he built himself 18 different streams of income and skyrocketed his net worth to over $1.5 million.
Yeah, did we mention he's 26? Oh, dang, man. 26 years
it.
old. Like, I mean, we were talking about on the show, like, I love seeing young dudes up and coming, 18 streams of income. We're talking about like selling things on Shopify, creating online courses, real estate, long-term rentals, short-term rentals, cryptocurrencies, index funds. Like, the dude is a serial entrepreneur, and he kind of walks everyone through like his process of how he was able to build a income streams of 80K. He makes in 2022, he's making 80 to 90K a month. And he didn't really want to say it. Like he's very like, humble, but like, we're like, dude, what does this bring in? Like, what does it do for you? And his strategies were just really insightful for such a young guy. He's just crushing it.
He is. The thing that kind of took me not by surprise, but kind of gave me like a little bit of insight and like an aha moment was he outsources everything. The way he's able to run all these different streams of income is because he finally got the guts to say, hey, I'm going to hand over my baby and let someone else run the show. It's going to cost me a little bit, but it's going to 10x my revenue. And I know that's for a lot of us entrepreneurs out there, content creators, et cetera, people that have side hustles and also still 9-to-5s. It's like, you don't want to like hand off something that you built from the ground up and the confidence to give it to someone else and that they're going to do it as well as you do and give it the tender love and care that you will it's a hard thing to do. And so when he told us, when he let go of the reins a little bit and let people run the show and put people in their own lanes, he hires outside of the country, right? So it's a lot cheaper, but as long as people speak English, and he films these Loom videos and shows the process of how he runs it, that all the other people have to do, these VAs that he hires, they just watch the videos and they learn to implement his business the way he does. And he also talked about another like tip for content creators. It's like, hey, get people from your audience that know your vibe, know your show, and that are fans. They'll come in and then they want to learn the business. So let them take control of maybe creating some content for you, doing some test runs, and maybe they'll run the books. Like there's just a lot of different things that once he took the time to figure out he could put in place for that, he's been able to free up his time and make tens of thousands of dollars more.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, I don't know how much even more I can even talk about this, because the amount of income streams that he brings in or that he uses when he said the word 8 or said the number 18, I'm just like, how does he have the time? But he kind of explains exactly how he does it and how he uses the skill sets of other people, like you just said, to leverage their time. And he does syndications, he does partnerships. It was just like really inspiring episode. I think we should just bring him in and let him tell us the story.
Let's have Cody take it. Cody, officially welcome to the Weekly Juice podcast. Corey and I are so jacked up to have you on the show. As I mentioned, pre-recording, New England guy to New England guy, that gets me super juiced and makes me want to dive in even more. So without any more delay, we want to get into the interview, but thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, excited to come on. You guys have had some rock star guests and hoping to add myself to that roster and just drop a bunch of knowledge for your listeners.
Great, man. We have a funny feeling you'll be on the star-studded list. So if you could kind of walk us through how you became a millionaire by 25. I think that's a crazy feat for such a young guy like yourself.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's nuts to even talk about or think about, because when I was 22, I was working at corporate. I was working in Boston, actually, go New England. And I was working a corporate banking job, but I knew I wanted out. I had already discovered this financial independence thing. I kind of came in through Tim Ferriss, 4-Hour Work Week, read that when I was 19, became obsessed with business building, then discovered Mr. Money Mustache and the whole financial independence movement. So by the time I was working at corporate, I already knew that I wanted to get out, and I was taking strategic actions to get out. So I was blogging, I was podcasting, I was doing a bunch of different freelance work. I was like building websites, editing videos, editing podcasts, doing like copy editing, building email funnels, like anything I could possibly do that was within my skill set, my repertoire, I was doing. So I was doing this while I was working. I ended up only working for 7 months in corporate, quit my corporate job, went full into entrepreneurship. Stars aligned. I ended up going on a book tour with this guy, Grant Sabatier, that I had met at a conference in 2018 called FinCon. And he's like, yo, want to come on this book tour with me? I need some help. And I was like, are you serious? Like, you just gonna let me travel the country with you and go on a book tour? Hell yeah. Said yes to that. Did that from March 2019. So I quit end of January, did the book tour from March 2019 to June 2019. Amazing experience. Did 33 states, 16,000 miles in 3 months. Learned a ton from this guy, Grant. He like blew everything that I knew in terms of like what was possible with money, with time, just with financial independence, financial freedom. He blew all of my expectations of what was possible out of the water. So got to give a lot of credit to Grant. After that, started just doing a bunch of other different side hustles with this kind of new mentality that I'd formed in 2019. I started building online courses. I started getting a lot more intentional about building passive income streams. So looking into digital products, selling printables, selling templates, starting a print on demand store. 2020, I started getting into real estate. And at the end of 2020, I think it was actually the beginning of 2021 is when I officially made it over the $1 million mark, which is crazy.
Yeah, you think so? Being, 25, having the courage to quit your job just to be like out of nowhere. I kind of want to go back to that because you glossed over it like anybody could just do this. And it's like, what did you mentioned entrepreneurial ventures, right? But like what specifically gave you A, the confidence, and B, like the guts to quit? What did you have specifically going on? What did you dive into that was like, you felt comfortable enough, or was it more blind faith in yourself?
No, and this is something that I get a question about a lot. People are like, should I just quit my job and go full bore into entrepreneurship? And my answer is usually no, if you don't have anything else going on. Like if you've never made $1 on your own and you just want to quit your job and go and start this thing, you want to start investing in real estate, you want to open a gym, whatever the thing that's attracting you to entrepreneurship is, I don't think you should go for it unless you have that first penny, that first dollar showing you that it's possible. So for me, at that point, I was super frugal. I was spending $350 a month on rent, living with a bunch of guys, like a bunch of my college buddies. I was driving the same car from high school. I was really frugal about my groceries, barely going out. I'd go to the bar. I was like 22 at the time, go to the bar all the time, but I would just like pre-drink and buy like one drink out. So I was like super intentional. I was spending between like probably $1,000 and $1,200 a month. And I was making between $1,000 and $1,200 a month in my side hustle ventures. So through that freelancing, blogging, and podcasting at the beginning. So I was like, okay, I'm pretty much breaking even if I didn't have this day job, if I just do this entrepreneurship thing. And this day job's taking up 40, 50, sometimes 60 hours of my week. So if I go full tilt into entrepreneurship, I can probably out earn what I'm earning now doing this on the side, on my train rides, on nights, on weekends. And so I felt really confident about it. And I was stockpiling all of the money pretty much that I was making in that corporate job. I was literally saving like 90% of my income. So by the end of that 7 months, I had a pool of almost $50,000, and I'm spending $1,000 a month. That's like 50 months of entrepreneurial freedom.
Yeah, Cody, I think people need to see it as like, if it's something that's possible that they can do. And Ryan and I talk about this all the time. Like right now we are so busy, and half of the reason we're so busy is because we have 3 businesses along with the jobs that pay us the most amount of money out of any of the 3, right? We have businesses that pay us, but the job right now pays us the most. So we have this thing that's like, we're riding this train out, jobs that we really like, people that we really like to work with, but riding this train out. And we've always wondered, like, what would it be like if we could go full in on some of these business ventures? And you're living proof that you just broke, that FI number even, and you're like, you know what, how much more, if I could do this that much more, how much more money could I make? So I think it's different for everybody. I would say that you're right. Not everybody should just jump all the way in, but yeah, I mean, Rod, did you have something that you want to go into?
Yeah. Well, kind of piggybacking off that, it's like, it's not just 1, 2, 3 streams of income, right? We have a couple different businesses. Then you have your W-2 that come in. We work in sales. So it's like, that's where our heavy dollars come from. We're seeing money trickle in through the podcast and through Instagram and all that stuff. But I wanted to ask you is like, how many different streams of income do you have as a millionaire? And I'm sure you may not remember them all. So if you could just kind of rattle off a couple of them that you have, or the ones that make you the most money, because it'll help other people conceptualize. You say, as we saw on your Instagram, that you have digital products, and you mentioned the templates and things. But for us, our major thing is real estate. And then we have a couple e-commerce ventures. But I think if you could broaden our horizons and just let us know what else you have going on, it might help everybody get a little bit creative.
Well, you're really putting me to the test, trying to remember my 18 streams of income that I posted on that reel. I'll try to hit most of them. And also, I just want to touch on these streams of income are vastly different than the streams of income I had when I quit that corporate job. I focus a lot more on passive income streams now. And back then it was like all active freelance stuff. But today I have online courses. I have joint ventures with other online course creators. So like we help people launch their online courses. Also sell ebooks. I sell printables and digital downloads on Etsy. I sell templates on Shopify. I have a print-on-demand store. I invest in real estate, long-term rentals, short-term rentals. I also do co-hosting, where we basically manage other people's Airbnbs. I do flips. I do syndications. I do angel investing, which is like Shark Tank style. Also make money on my podcast from sponsors, affiliates, advertisers, and I also make affiliate marketing money via my blog and my brand Gold City Ventures that I have all the online courses under. What else? I don't know if I'm missing anything.
I don't even know if you're rubbing it in. Okay.
Yeah, you got it. Help, buddy. No. Do you sleep, dude? Like seriously, like that's rhetorical, by the way. That is truly like, you have so many things going on. And Corey and I, sometimes we're like, one of us will be like, oh man, like we just don't have enough time. It's like, dude, yes, you do. You have to make time for things. So I want to have you dive into this a little bit. And it's like, let's talk about kind of how you build out your schedule and like how you attack things. But I also want to talk about the systems you have in place, right? Because there's a way where if it's passive income, right, you set it up, but then you have a system chugging it along, and maybe you spend a couple hours here and there on it. So just maybe talk to some of the programs and things you have on the back end that help you optimize your time and kind of pull yourself out of the business a little bit.
Well, here's what I'll say, and I'll give a real tactical, concrete example. So let's even use the Weekly Juice Pod as an example. So you guys are creating this awesome podcast. And, if you just focus on creating the best podcast you possibly can, now you can start to add some other income streams as more people get into your ecosystem. So maybe you create an ebook on like the best ways to invest in real estate, or the best ways to make a side hustle, the best ways to make passive income. Maybe you launch a mini course. Maybe you guys start working with a bunch of different affiliates and you're promoting different products. Maybe you guys start to attract sponsors. Maybe you guys start to work with advertisers. You're still just spending the time doing the podcast. Maybe you spend a little bit of time on managing some of those other streams, but those streams are kind of just running in the background once you set them up. Like once you create that ebook, once you create that relationship with that company, once you build that mini course, the sales are just going to come in regardless, because you've already built the thing. So all you have to do is focus on your craft, focus on creating an awesome podcast. And that's kind of what I've done with a lot of my stuff. It's like, this was one income stream at one point. I've just kind of figured out how to add ancillary income streams to the left and to the right that are, related to that product. And it's made me multiply my income. And it's something that audience is already looking for. It's something that's helpful for them. So it's not like I'm just, I'm working as a veterinarian and then I have like a vegetable business. And then I also do like driveway washing on the side. Like all of my businesses are pretty related in like the side hustle, make money space. So they're just natural extensions of like that main thing, whatever that was that I started.
Yeah. Cody, I want to talk about this because I think people listening are like, okay, I don't know. And it doesn't always matter where you go to start. It's just that you start is the most important thing. But what is the stream of income or the top 2 or 3 that bring you the most money that has allowed you to branch off in others? Because I think people listening are probably like, all right, well, what is something bigger that I can start that will allow me to have this spider web or this tree effect of other different incomes? I would imagine that some of them are more fruitful on the front end than others.
Yeah. So online courses and joint venture online courses are big ones for me. And that started back in 2019. Didn't have a clue what I was doing. Me and my business partner, Julie of Gold City Ventures, we just like built a couple side hustle courses of side hustles that we had made good money with. Like we had a blogging one, a freelancing one, and an Etsy printables one. That's actually the only one that we have today, the printables one, because it was so wildly popular. And since then, we've just been able to just shoot off a bunch of ancillary products. Like we were both already making money on Etsy. We both had the proof in the pudding. We both had the story, built a course. People started signing up for the course, built a membership, started selling templates, started selling ebooks, like all this stuff around this one idea. And so, yeah, whatever your expertise is in, I mean, you know, if you have an audience on whatever social media platform, create an ebook, create a mini course, create a template, create something that your audience is coming to you for, something that maybe a question that you get all the time, like look through your DMs. What's a question that people are asking all the time? Create a little resource for people. And that's, you know, they're already showing you the data that people are looking for that thing. And then just start to branch off from there. And, you know, your audience is an awesome place to get data.
So I love that. And I think about this all the time. And Corey and I, you know, we're kind of the face of the podcast. We also have a producer who runs things in the background. And for us, it's kind of like setting role assignment, right? Like who has what and what lane do you go in. But then for us right now, I think we're just so focused on the content and like trying to find reach and all this stuff. And we need to shift towards the business model. And I'm thinking like, for example, we have the podcast, right? We have the Instagram, we have the audience, we have our real estate, we have our YouTube automation, and like there's a lot of different things going on. But for us, I'm wondering, we have a lot of other content creator friends and influencers, if you will, macro, micro, like a bunch of different levels to the game, right? But what we found is it's difficult to find a coach in this sphere that also is trustworthy and that doesn't cost $1 million to set us in the right direction. So my question to you is, are you this guy that like, is your team the team that people can go to, like other influencers can go to, and you help them set up these different revenue streams and like byproducts of their overarching content, like let's say the podcast or Instagram?
That is not us right now. No, maybe that's something we'll offer in the future. Right now with our joint venture stuff, we just focus on online courses because through trial and error, through a lot of trials and tribulations and mistakes and things like that, we've built a multi-7-figure course, which is crazy to say out loud, but that's attracted a lot of people to us, and people who want, you know, they're like, I have this knowledge, I have this expertise, I don't know how to create an online course, I don't know how to market it. They come to us, we, you know, figure out an equity split, and then we move forward from there, kind of like Shark Tank.
So with that, is it a bunch of different niches, and you guys are just the basically you structure out the course, how to launch it, how to tease it, how to go with the audience? And the part B of this question is, say Corey and I came to you and we said, hey, listen, like we have all this real estate knowledge, we have this audience that they want to take it in. Are you the guy that we go to package this together and then it spreads out to our audience? So
we, in terms of the packaging, like in this scenario, you guys would still be in charge of recording your own content, because talking to part A, we help people in all different niches. Like we have people in branding, people in Airbnb, people in land flipping, people in car rentals, like all this different stuff. So I'm not an expert in that. Neither is my business partner, Julie. So we couldn't like create a course on that. But when we help you guys package the course, record the course, like best practices when it comes to delivery of content. And then, you know, 80% of the battle with anything, quite honestly, is marketing. And you guys as podcasters know that. Like you could have the best podcast in the world. If you're not marketing, if you're not, you know, just getting the word out there, having people share, creating content. Like I know you guys are crushing it on Instagram. People aren't going to listen, even if it's the best podcast ever. So yeah, the biggest thing we do is help with the marketing battle, because that's one of the biggest hurdles for people.
And would that be like pay-per-click ads? Would it be like SEO through Google AdWords and all that stuff? Or is it something separate? I'm just trying to conceptualize how this thing launches. Maybe you could give like a little, not sharing all the secrets to your course, right? That's obviously people need to go pay for that because it's high value, but like just what comes involved with it, like maybe a couple stages that would like help other people kind of visualize, hey, like if I went with your team, this is what they would provide me with.
Yeah. So it totally depends on the person and what areas they're already operating in. Like different people have different audiences in different areas. Like someone might have an audience that's super active on LinkedIn. So we're just going to like hammer LinkedIn. Someone might have a super active Instagram audience, hammer Instagram. Another thing is just like looking around in your network. I think a lot of times people are scared to collaborate. I actually heard you, Corey, recently talk about like partnerships. I'm like you in that I am always looking for partnerships, and I think it's just like a superpower. But a lot of people are scared of giving up any kind of control or equity. And I think that's honestly one of the fastest and best ways to grow. So we highly encourage all the people we work with. We're like, all right, we have like an Excel spreadsheet, build your network. Who are the people that are going to promote your course, that you're going to collab with, that you're going to do IG lives with, that you're going to ask them to contribute bonus content to your course? Kind of just like start to build that network before the course itself is even built. Because now you have all of these people with megaphones who are going to, tell their audience about this awesome new course that you're creating. So those are just a few of the things, but yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. I'm curious to dive in a couple more of these income streams. And on our show, we talk a lot about real estate specifically. And you mentioned that you have some long-term and short-term rentals. Can you just talk a little bit about your portfolio there and like where you grew it and why you decided to get into real estate, and just give some detail there?
So I had these two guests on my podcast, now great friends of mine, James and Emily Lowry, and they had retired in less than 2 years from real estate in Huntsville, Alabama. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, I didn't have any real estate at the time. I was like, that's insane. Like, I need to give real estate a try. So I just kept listening to a bunch of different podcasts, like Bigger Pockets, so a lot of different podcasts, read a bunch of books, and that I finally pulled the trigger on my first multifamily in Connecticut, another New England property. Ended up buying another property in Connecticut 2 months after that, bought another property in Massachusetts 2 months after that. And now I have 11 long-term doors, 2 Airbnbs, 1 co-hosted Airbnb, soon to be 2, and a couple syndications I'm invested in. Then I hold some REITs as well. That's probably overkill, but that's my basically overall real estate portfolio.
No, that's great. I mean, how did you go about, you met these people that were in Alabama. How did you apply that knowledge to the area that you invested in? Why Connecticut? I know it's sort of in your backyard, but like, did you buy duplexes, triplexes? What was your strategy like up there? And just talk about maybe like how you went about getting started in that.
Great question, because originally I wanted to invest in Massachusetts, like super close to home. I'm from Massachusetts, and I just kept looking everywhere. I'm like from the Worcester County area, which is central, and the price to rent ratios just didn't make that much sense, quite honestly. Like the numbers just didn't quite jive. Like it was really hard to find a 1% rural property. So my buddy who invests told me, he's like, dude, look over the line, like check out Connecticut and Rhode Island. And I started to look at Connecticut. I'm like, okay, these price to rent ratios make a heck of a lot more sense. So I started, doing my due diligence. I started touring places. I started getting familiar with areas like, okay, this area is up and coming. This area, there's decent cash flow, but it's not so great. Like you're not going to have good tenants. And then we pulled the trigger in September of 2020 on a triplex.
Cool.
Very cool.
Love that. Yeah. It's interesting to find a niche, to find an area to invest in. Connecticut is not a place that we hear like all these investors are running to, right? If it's probably likely a very tenant-friendly state. We invest in New Jersey. It's an extremely tenant-friendly state. And PA is like half and half. But I think that's great. And the fact that you're able to have the confidence to dive into a sphere that you just learned about, I think is really noteworthy. So I guess, what's next for you on the real estate realm? Do you want to continue to grow that portfolio there? You mentioned you were into some syndications. After we got our portfolio to about 8 units, we decided to dive in on as an LP on some syndications as well. We're going to continue to grow our portfolio, but we just bought our first short-term rental. So we're shifting a little bit. What do you see as your strategy going forward?
I think I'm going to keep chipping away on growing my long-term rental portfolio, but I'm really excited about Airbnb. And I didn't realize like Central Massachusetts isn't a hub for tourists. You don't hear about people like, oh yeah, I'm going to Central Mass for my bachelor party, or people aren't just flocking here. But we launched one of our Airbnbs back in March of this year. I should say we acquired the property back in March, took a couple of months to outfit. We listed it in mid-May, and it's been booked solid from June on, like June, July, we're recording this end of August. It's been booked solid. And this place isn't cheap. Like on the weekends, we're charging $500 a night, $300 a weeknight.
Wow.
Last month, we did $5,000 in net profit after everything, after mortgage, after cleaners, after, CapEx reserves, like everything, which is just crazy. Like we would not be seeing these numbers with a long-term rental. It'd still be profitable, but just not even close to as profitable. So we have been, and I have a team. I actually teamed up with my realtor and her husband, who's super handy, and my fiance Lauren, and that's who I acquired the property with, and we've been just like scouring because it's been so profitable for us at this point. So definitely more of those in the future. Definitely some more long-term rentals. My cash flow has been really great this past year. So anything extra where I don't have the bandwidth to look, I have been throwing into syndications. And yeah, I honestly don't know what me in real estate in 5 years looks like. I just kind of, as you guys can tell from my 18 streams of income, I get bored easily and move on to the next thing. And I just like trying a ton of different stuff. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important. And it's also like you're doing the ultimate kind of diversification strategy where if, 2 or 3 or 4 of these income streams go away based on trends of the market, like you're going to be okay. Right. And I love that you have the ability to build teams in different areas, right? You mentioned partnerships, but it's not just partnerships, it's teams. Like there are teams that are taking you to the direction that you're going. Correct me if I'm wrong, I may be wrong on this, but you're probably not an expert in every single one of the areas. You're an expert in a few, you know a lot, and you know how to leverage other people's skill sets. That's what we feel like has become our best asset in real estate. We feel like we know enough, right? We're not 100% experts. We know enough. And in the e-commerce and automation, we're leveraging teams to help us grow our portfolio, which is amazing. And now I guess some of the typical, like, I guess you could say investments that you might see other people invest in, like index funds and I guess cryptocurrencies. I'm not a big fan, but what is your play there? Like, are you just taking the money, your active income, and putting it into a specific fund? Do you have like a strategy on what you like, especially in like people could say it's a recession, in a recessionary type period?
So real quick before I hit on that, because I think the building teams thing is such an essential part of growth that I didn't know and that most people don't know and don't talk about. So I don't know about you guys, but when I first started out, I thought I was the best at everything and I didn't want to outsource anything.
I never felt like that, but yeah.
I was like, why would I outsource this to someone when I can do it 10 times better? And, and I don't want to spend the money on it anyway. And once I like relinquished control of stuff that I didn't like doing and I wasn't particularly good at, even though I thought like no one's going to be better than me at this, it has allowed me to grow all my businesses like 10x what they could have possibly done. Like now at this point, between all my businesses, I have like 20 people working for me. Whereas, 2 or 3 years ago, it was like me as a solo man operation doing everything myself. And I just had no bandwidth for anything. Like, I was running a podcast. I was doing all the editing. I was doing all the outreach and all the stuff that I was just talking about before in the scenario. Like I was doing everything. And not only that, but I had like 7 other businesses that I was doing it for. It was just completely unsustainable. So if you're someone who feels like me 2 or 3 years ago, like start to just build out what's called SOPs, standard operating procedures. Like if there's a certain way you do something, like let's say, we'll choose a podcast again as an example. I didn't want to relinquish editorial control at all, but I just made a video of like, this is how I want the podcast edited. This is how I want the intro. This is like how I want the audio cut. This is, I want these filler words removed, all that stuff. Gave it to our audio editor. He's been crushing it for like 2 years now. And I was so scared to give control to him, like editorial control, because I thought I could do this so much better. And this has happened so many times in my business. I'm like, I'm so much better at running emails than someone who I just like randomly hire for email marketing. But if you give them parameters, you give them guidelines, you build those SOPs, those standard operating procedures for wherever your business is, and then just hand that to the person that you hire, it's a lot harder for them to mess up. And now you have so much time back to focus on the higher impact activity. So that's the first part. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to get to the index funds and stuff too, but like, go ahead. I got a bunch of stuff. Go ahead.
Sorry, really quick. I'm at the point where this is me you're speaking to. I no longer love cranking out all the content and like typing it up and like writing all and like, I feel like we're lacking in certain things where it's like outreach to find new sponsors, collabing with and building the relationships that we've already built, but like fruitfully cultivating them or nurturing the relationships that we have, right? Like you meet someone once, but like the next 2-3 touch points and like having that partner up with them and go to the next level because we're so in the weeds right now. And so you're literally preaching to the choir. My question for you is like, how do you find the people that you're willing to give the reins to? And A, how do you trust them? And B, how do you find like cost-effective people? Because we're at the point where it's like, hey, we don't make millions of dollars doing this. So it's like, you want to recoup your profits and do as much as you can yourself to save some dough. But when you're saying you can 10x it, I'm like, okay, how do you find the balance is my question. And where are you finding these people that you're like I said, you're confident in handing your baby over to, you know?
So there's two types of people to work under you, or at least that's how I classify them. If it's someone who doesn't need a really elaborate understanding of the English language and doesn't need to communicate with like clients, like let's say you're like real estate wholesaling, you need like a cold caller, probably not going to hire a person in this category. I have some amazing people from the Philippines that work for me in different capacities. Like some of them create templates for me. Some of them, I actually have my full-time video editor is from the Philippines and he just crushes it and he's awesome. But he doesn't need to, talk to anyone on the phone. He doesn't need to be like answering people's emails. So the first bucket is like tasks like that, where it's like, whether it's a computer skill, maybe it's some design program or video editing, podcast editing, maybe not podcast editing, video editing. That first bucket, you can totally outsource to different countries. And it's a lot cheaper in different countries as well. I use this website called onlinejobs.ph. And it's
dude, you are literally the 10th person to tell us this, and we're just dumb. Yeah, we're just like, okay, we haven't looked it up yet. Like what is going on?
All right, I'm done. I'm done. We're doing it.
Okay,
I'm really sick of doing some of this shit, dude. And like, I'm doing it.
Onlinejobs.ph. Sign up after we finish this interview. The second type of person, this is like if you wanted someone managing your social media, like replying in your Instagram DMs, maybe typing up captions for your posts, writing YouTube descriptions. The best people that I've found are people that are already in your audience and that know you and your voice. One, they're already fans. They know everything about you. They know your opinions. They know the types of things that you would say. They know your tone. And two, there's someone who's, they're already like really like you. They're kind of obsessed with your content. Like they're watching every video. They're always replying to you guys' stuff, and like working for you would make them amped. So like having someone who's already rooting for you from the stands and having them as like your go-to. And again, this is like someone who's communicating, native English speaker. Get them from your audience, man.
Yo, so this is funny. My sister, I talk about her a couple times on the podcast. She's an influencer, like legit full time. And they just hired her, and her husband just hired 3 interns, unpaid. And not because they don't want to pay the people, but because these people are really eager to learn like about her lifestyle blogging, about what she does. She showed me some of the content that they just like they're like, can you guys make the next 20 posts for us? And she like showed me, and it's like unbelievable stuff. And it came from people that were following her. She's like, I can't believe how organized they are. I can't believe how much time has been freed up. I think we've hit a breaking point. And I think that's like something that we're about to do. I mean, we say it, we're busy. I don't want to shut this podcast off and then forget about it. So I'll remind myself, but she did that, and exactly what you said, Cody, like word for word. So it's just, if people are listening, it's like, there are people that can take a load off of what you're doing that you don't think exists because you haven't asked the question yet. And that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, no, seriously, like, I was so scared to do this for so long. And now that I've gotten that weight off my shoulders, I'm like, I'll hire you. I don't like doing this. How can I outsource this? And it just made me, I can just zoom out so far instead of like being in the business like you were talking about and just like, oh, I forgot to hit this person up. Oh man, I missed out on this opportunity because I was so busy on editing the podcast or typing up that Instagram caption. Now I can zoom out and be like, okay, how can I make my next strategic move? And I have all these people under me doing that stuff.
I think this might be the difference, Cody, between our generation and the one before us. And I only saying that because I just look at like some people that I work with that are like, I got to do this myself. Like I gotta get this done. I'm the one who knows the information. Where there's a flip side of the coin, right? The people that are in our generation, maybe we make too many mistakes because we're willing to trust a bunch of other people too. And like, we're not as hardworking as the generation before us, right? In terms of like, the output that we are willing to do. But the outsourcing and to be able to see everything in a bird's eye view actually makes you more effective in growing your wealth, in growing your business. It's just harder to relinquish that. And I think that that's kind of a stark difference between us and not everybody, this is not a broad statement, but I'm sensing that, and we're kind of in between. Like we're willing to give people the reins, but we just haven't done it yet. So I think you've given us some inspiration. So thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, if you could go into some of the other investments, like we were talking about, maybe some index funds, some advice. Obviously, you're not necessarily a financial advisor, but like what's worked for you in that investing sphere, and what do you think will work for other people, especially in 2022?
For sure. Yeah. So this is definitely not financial or investment advice. I'll give the disclaimer here. I'm not a financial advisor. For me, I used to be like huge into day trading in college. Like I was reading earnings reports. I was like looking through 10K filings, like all that stuff. I was literally probably researching stocks like 3 or 4 hours every day. I was obsessed, and I made some good returns. But now like literally 90% of my money is just in index funds that's in the stock market, like just total stock market index funds. I invest with Vanguard. That's VTSEX. That's not investment advice. It's just what I do. But it's just like set it and forget it. It's super easy. Over the past couple of years, I mean, the stock market has had incredible returns. I've made, over 6 figures just from letting my money sit there in the stock market, which is nuts what assets can do for you once you start investing in assets. I do invest in crypto a bit, not too much. I try to keep it around 5% of my total net worth. And I just do Bitcoin and Ethereum, the big boys. What else? I do syndications, we already mentioned. Angel investing was something that I got an opportunity to invest in a financial app. I don't think I have an NDA. It's called Topia. And it's like this financial independence tracker app. My friend Grant, the one I won the book tour with, is a co-founder. And yeah, so I basically threw money to that, and it's kind of cool. I'm like, a Shark Tank guy now, investing in startup companies and hoping that they're profitable and, helping them along the way.
When I hear angel investor, Cody, I think, oh man, you got to put $1 million into something, right? That's just like that's like a venture capitalist, right? That's what I think of. Like, can you give us an idea? And maybe you don't have to give us the exact number, but like, can you be an angel investor at $100,000? Can you be an angel investor at $50,000? Like, is it something that you got to put serious capital in? And maybe it's just the name angel. That's kind of like, whoa, is this, is this like somebody that's like literally picking somebody up from the dirt and just saving their life? Like what is like an angel investor? How does it work?
Yeah. So you do have to, for most of them, be an accredited investor, meaning you, over the past 2 years, have made at least, I think it's $200,000, maybe $300,000 a year, or have $1 million net worth. So you do need to pass those hurdles in order to invest, kind of like syndications, most syndications anyway. The minimum that I've seen is 25K though. So, I mean, if you meet those criteria, and you don't have to shell out $200,000 into some startup and like hope it takes off. And if it goes to zero, all of a sudden you're out $200,000. You could diversify, do a bunch of 25K, 50K shots here and there, and just hope that one of your investments take off. Cool.
Love that. I think, we're winding down the show a little bit. I want to talk about your podcast and the Fi Show, which is a very simple name. And I've been following it in the last couple of weeks as we booked you to come on the show. It's really great stuff. So can you talk about like the goal of your podcast and why you began it?
Yeah, when we first started, we just kind of wanted to document me and my co-host Justin's journeys to financial independence. At the time we started the podcast, it was 2018. So I was still working my corporate job, actually. I was like editing the podcast, my train rides to and from work, like typing up the show notes at my desk, at my job, and like peering over my shoulder, hoping my boss wasn't watching me. But we basically just wanted to like show people what we were doing and show people that it was possible. So, I mean, you can listen back to the beginning episodes. My net worth was like 70K, and I was, working my corporate job. I'm like, can't wait to get out of here. And now, I'm not trying to like boast myself here, but
just talk to us, brother. Just talk. Let us know.
But like, I've documented every week of like what I'm doing, what I'm up to, what I'm thinking about. And now I'm 26 years old, have a $1.5 million net worth, and it's just insane. And basically the reason we started the podcast though was to just document that entire journey. My co-host, like both of us actually, while we were recording the podcast, we both became financially independent in our own respects. And it's like every single week we just come on, talk about what we're thinking about, talk about what we're doing, whether that was like buying a new investment property or like how we're investing our money in index funds. And yeah, I mean, we want the knowledge out there for people who are like the naysayers who are like, it's not possible. I've never heard of anyone retiring before they're 50. Just, all right, go listen to the archive. Like there's 200 plus episodes you can go check out. It's literally our entire journey from almost nothing to financial independence in 3 years.
That's incredible. My question for you is, working with a partner, how do you guys, and I know it's basically, I'm asking because Corey and I do the same thing, right? We like balance each other's schedules, and like we have to, it's not just you, right? You have to think about someone else. How do you guys keep things systematized and organized? Like for us, I'm just going to give you a little background. Like for, let's just say content creation, we use a tool called Asana, and we have this calendar. We see who has what day, and we just keep it organized, and we pump it out. Right. But I'm wondering if there's any other things you use, because you have literally 18 streams of income and you've scaled all the way to 1.5 million in a short amount of time. Is there any like tips to the trade, tips and tricks, and like just something maybe that we could implement on the back end just to help us kind of like be more efficient, if you will?
I mean, I think you guys are already doing it. If you have Asana, I know we used Calendly to book this. We use Calendly as well. We just kind of have our roles and do our roles. We just actually had a guy on recently who was talking about like, if a plane's going down, people like the crew isn't freaking out. They all already know their roles. They already know what they need to do. Like one person's, talking to traffic control. One person's like putting out the engine. One person's doing this. So me and my co-host is kind of at this point know what each of us do. Like I handle a lot of the inbound marketing stuff. Like there's big opportunities. He handles a lot of the kind of back end tech stuff and some of the graphic design and just like kind of staying on top of that. So we both know that we do that. So there's almost no communication between us. Like when an episode is, needs to go out, or when we are booking a guest, like we kind of already know what's going to happen. And I feel like having those expectations in advance allows you to make decisions without using too much brain power, because it's almost habitual at that point. It's not like, oh man, I got to scramble and figure out who we're going to interview next week, or like, oh man, the podcast needs to go out tomorrow. Like, is that graphic done? Like, how we got that sponsor all lined up? It's already done. Like we already have the checklist. We already kind of know what to expect. And that's been instrumental in all my businesses. Just like setting that baseline expectation, because the less things that can surprise you, the less stressed out you're going to be.
So thank you for that. I love the plane going down analogy, because it's like truly, if that was happening, we both be like, all right, we can say beforehand, hey, we know our roles, but we really do know our roles. We'll be like, all right, Cody actually does this. I do this. When it's like,
if a plane's going down, we're screwed.
We're screwed, but
a plane, I'm talking
about. Not the podcast.
Oh, no, the podcast. Yeah.
So, on that, what I think we are lacking the most, and I'm just being completely transparent, we share our journey just as you do, is the marketing piece. When I say the marketing piece, it's not the graphics in like the presentation as much on the podcast. It's building the email list, having funnels, and like digital products. We don't have any of that. And I think we're missing out on a lot. And I'm wondering if you have any tips and tricks on like how to steer someone. I know there's others out there listening, content creators out there listening that are in the same exact boat. And they're just wondering like how to get this done. And we can weave it into our roles and who's responsible for what. But I guess it's like getting the footing, right? And like starting, like, where would you recommend we look and kind of pivot for that when everything else is covered, just not the revenue generation part, with marketing kind of synergized together?
So do you guys currently have any email marketing, like any email funnel opt-in thing right now?
Self-admittedly, completely transparent, we have a goose egg, dude. Nothing.
Okay. So if I were you,
we definitely don't.
Okay.
We have nothing.
No,
okay, fine. This is what I'll say. For leads for certain things, we have a Google sheet and we type it in and we track it together pretty manually. Dude, I know.
He's laughing at us.
I know, dude. I knew he was going to. So that's what we have.
Okay. Quite honestly, if I were you guys have a big Instagram following. I don't know exactly what your listenership is. You guys off the YouTube channel as well. I would just create like, what is the one thing that people from your audience ask you about and come to you about? Create a 1-page PDF lead magnet, like a free guide on insert whatever the answer to the question I just asked you is. Get people in your email list, build like a 5 email series. Like it doesn't have to be that crazy. Be like, hey, tell them your stories. People who maybe haven't listened to episodes before, they just get introduced to you. Then the next one, like you're like, hey, talk a little bit more about your stories, more into the tactics, then start to maybe intertwine some affiliates in there. Like, we love this rental property management software. We love Personal Capital for tracking our net worth. We love whatever. If you want to go that route, or if you want to build like an ebook or a mini course, although it is a little more work, then you can start to introduce that in that email funnel. And all you need is seriously to start making money, like a 5 email series and just something flashy to get them in the top of that funnel. So whatever, and you guys are the experts of your audience and what people come to you for, but whatever the flashiest lead magnet, opt-in, freebie, whatever terminology you want to use that you can create is just throw it on your website, start posting in all your Instagram stories, like make it available everywhere and just get all the people who follow you and love your content onto your list. And things like, even in affiliate marketing, so from an affiliate marketing standpoint, someone clicks on a link and they're now using a helpful product or service that's going to help them advance their business. You guys get paid, they win. And, same with like a mini course or an ebook, like you're going to probably cut down dozens and dozens of hours and mistakes if you're just kind of giving them all the info. So it's like a win-win for everybody. And I know when I first started selling stuff, sorry, I'm going on a long tangent here. I felt like kind of slimy. I'm like, I don't want to like sell to my audience, and I don't want them, I don't want them to think they're just here, like buy from me. But a lot of times they come to you for this information. If you can just give them like a shortcut to, this is how I got my first rental property. This is how you do a wholesale deal. This is how you start a profitable YouTube channel. You give them the shortcut, like people are willing to pay for convenience. I mean, myself included. I am so willing to pay to save me, dozens of hours if I can just pay someone $50 to show me exactly how to do it. So that's honestly what I would do if I was in your position.
It's great advice. Part B is, and I know Corey has a bunch too, but does your course come with, or not your course, but like your training package? I can't remember exactly what it's called, but like does it come with these steps along the way? Do you coach people up on this? And I'm wondering, like, when you say like sending, like a five page, like newsletter, if you will,
yeah.
To make it pretty, are there programs out there that do it for you? And like, you just slap your logo on it. And it's like, how does like the inner weeds work on that?
So quite honestly, okay, I'll answer the first part. You don't need any fancy systems. Like I use ConvertKit for email marketing. There's other ones out there. There's like free ones, like MailerLite, I think is free up to 1,000 subscribers. In terms of making it pretty though, I actually lean against telling people to make their emails too pretty. The reason is a lot of email like softwares like Gmail will actually flag stuff that's too pretty as like promo, and you'll get shoved in the promo tab. I almost write to people like, hey, it's your cousin checking in on you. Like we don't use a bunch of graphics. We don't have like our logo at the top. And this is in all my businesses. We just say like, hey, first name. We have like a bunch of stuff about whatever the email is about that day. Maybe a circular picture of myself, Cody, sign off. We actually, and going back to the joint venture thing, yeah, we have like a whole email marketing template. It's like a Google Doc with like friggin' 40 pages in it, kind of showing people like the email funnels that we've built in our business, like our course business, Gold City Ventures, that people get access to, like the full templates. But yeah, man, I honestly would lean against having too pretty emails, because the last thing you want to do is be in that promo tab.
That's a great tip. No, thank you. Cool. Might have to look into that course, dude.
Yeah. And I think that for people that are listening, that like, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Cody. We get a lot of direct messages, a lot of people that we want to answer questions about, very detailed, paragraph long. And I think that it's not about selling as much as providing more value than we can provide, just us talking, right? The time in the day that it takes to think about the response. It's like, you can have all these responses. We've had people in our DMs that I say, we're willing to pay you for your time. And I'm like, I can't even yet figure out when that time works. And I want to help these people. I truly, truly do. And so does Rye. So that is the next phase. And what it's like diving a layer deeper. We're providing value with the podcast, but can we provide you more value to circumvent your journey? So I love that. And that's kind of why we brought this up. So before we get into, go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, yeah, just one thing on that. I think what's really important is the one-to-many aspect of these things that I'm talking about, like an ebook, like an online course. I get a ton of, DMs, direct, like emails, like all of these one-on-one things. And quite frankly, like I said, I'm pretty protective of my time now. I've spent a lot of time outsourcing and kind of crafting my perfect workday where I don't have time to answer 50 different paragraph long messages. But if you have a course, all of a sudden, all of those 50 people have their questions answered, and you just spend that one time building it. So the one-to-many model is just like, was mind blowing when I first, kind of got into this world.
Yeah. And I just want to say this about, like, I've seen TikTok, Instagram, people kind of like truly hating on the course model. Like people that are out there, they're like, oh, let me guess, buy my course, that kind of thing. And I think that people have it stuck in their head that they have to do everything on their own, and they have to work 100 hours a week, and they have to grind, and they have to figure it out. And that buying a course is somehow like cheating, or like they think that it's a scam. And I just really I feel very negatively about the people that don't see the light in trying to help them figure out their journey by learning the mistakes, what not to make from other people. And I think that's what courses do. Now, are there course scams out there? Sure there are, right? But like, that's just life. Like you have to figure out what the best one is. But I don't know, man, I've been seeing stuff on TikTok like, oh, let me guess, buy your course. It's like, yeah, dude, buy the course. Like if this is something that you want to learn, why would you not want to learn from somebody who's done it? So sorry, a little tangent there. I've seen this stuff. Like it's like
it's the guru stuff, dude. I get it.
It's like, yeah. And like, there is some validity to like hating on the courses. If you because people have scammed people, but I just think 99% of them are really, really good and they help you get to your end goal.
We've posted almost 1,000 posts on Instagram, something like that. That's free game. That's almost 2.5 years of free game. Yeah. It's like, dude, like if we want to really cut it down and trim the fat out, right? Because sometimes it goes from real estate to e-commerce and then, index funds or like stocks. So it varies, right? Some people just want a specific lane. They're like, dude, I'm good I'm great with crypto, right? I'm all good. I'm great with real estate. I just want to learn about index funds. So I just think there's a lane in ours, it's probably is real estate. That's what a lot of people ask about.
Totally. So, Cody, before we wind down the show, I know we're a little bit short on time. Before we get to the last couple segments, I just want to talk about your print on demand shop. Like give me like a elevator pitch, a minute segment on like what that actually is. Like, what are you doing with this and how does it bring you money?
Yeah. So I know I threw out a bunch of terms earlier when I was talking about all my income streams. So kind of 3 different things that I sell. So I sell printables and digital downloads, which are like planners, invitations, evites. I'm trying to think of some calendars, bunch of other random stuff. This is stuff that people are either printing out on their home printer or they're like downloading to their iPad or computer or using that way. That's like printables and digital downloads. Then I mentioned I sell templates on Shopify. So I sell like a bunch of different Canva templates. Actually, one that a lot of people buy is a podcast media kit template. So basically it's like, you buy it for like $5, then you customize it, make it like pimped out with all the weekly juice pod stats and whatever on Canva, which is a free graphic design program. And so sell those templates on Shopify and then print on demand. So basically print on demand is like mugs, t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts. There's actually a lot of companies out there. I personally use Printful and I don't touch inventory. So in a previous life, I didn't even mention this in today's episode. I started a disc golf manufacturing company where I literally like manufactured the discs. They got delivered to my house. I shipped them out. I did this all through college. It sucked. It was horrible. I had to manage shipping, inventory, and all that stuff. With print on demand, all you have to do is the marketing piece. Like a company like Printful, you upload your designs. They print the stuff on whatever merchandise it is, whether it's a hat, t-shirt, sweatshirt. They ship it out and you make money. You don't make as much money as if you're shipping it from your basement, but it's so much easier. It's kind of like selling on your own store versus selling on Amazon. Like Amazon takes a big cut, but there's tons of people on Amazon that make it a heck of a lot easier to get traffic. It's kind of a similar thing where you're just paying Printful to do all the heavy lifting, or Printify, there's some other ones out there. And you're just in charge of the marketing, like whatever channel that is for you. It could be Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, like you name it. But all you got to do is market it, sell it, and you make money.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And our producer Jake in the background will like this. When about 4 or 5 years ago, before we started the podcast and got into real estate, we were thinking about doing like a brand, and we used Printful. We got all this stuff made. It was great. And then like I talked to a mentor of mine who actually made a legitimate, like one of the top brands in the 90s. He was like, "You don't want to get into this business, dude. Like it's just not that." Printful is difficult, but like we were trying to start a clothing line, and they're like,
it's hard.
Like, he's like, dude, Nike will eat you alive. And I'm like, okay, we're not going to do that. But anyway, it's just funny because you're talking about it from like a passive side where you can everything's drop shipped, right? So that's exactly where you make the difference between the cost that it takes to ship it and the sale price. So very, very cool stuff there. I love there's just so many ways to make money, and that's why I'm glad we're interviewing you, because you've done, I don't know, 79 of them. So that's awesome. So as we wind down the show, we made it to the core 4. We got 4 questions to get to know you a little bit more. The first one is what is your favorite? We always do business or real estate investing book, but I really want to talk about like an entrepreneurship book, because that's really what you are. You're like a serial entrepreneur. Like the E-Myth has come up so many times in like the last couple podcast. So maybe don't do that one, but what is that
wasn't going to pick that one.
So yeah, what's your favorite entrepreneurship book?
I hinted at it earlier. I got to give a shout out to my boy, Tim Ferriss, with the 4-Hour Workweek. That book just like revolutionized the way I thought about business, money. I realized at that point that I did not have to trade my time for money. I could build passive income systems to pay me from front loading the work.
You read that recently. What were your thoughts? Like I was I liked it, but I was like overwhelmed by it. I couldn't like grasp it.
So I was, funny enough, we just talked to Rich Fecky last week, and I was telling him about, like, I listen to books on my ride to Massachusetts, because it's like 6 hours. I listen to them. So I've had to switch over to like parables or stories, because I was listening to 4-Hour Workweek, and it got to the point where it was giving like concise information on hiring a virtual assistant. I'm like, dude, this is gold, but I need to write it down or I'm going to forget. Like I can't. So that's one of the books I'm like, dude, I just ordered a hard copy. So now I have it. So I got to finish it. So it's an incredible book, dude, especially for now. I think you probably read it early on. If you go back now that you're like in the weeds with this, I think it's like a gold standard that we have to read because it does give you some of the how-to. It has some systems in there, but then it just opens your eyes to be on the pages that I've read. It was like getting me excited, but then it was actually giving me the information on how to do it, which I'm like seeking everywhere, right? That's why I asked you so many questions about In the Weeds. So I'd recommend that for anyone. Honestly, that's getting into entrepreneurship, side hustles, building a business. It's an amazing book. And I follow Tim Ferriss' show. He interviews literally celebrities and talks about their background, how they became celebrities and built their brands and all that, which is incredible. He has a couple other books like Tools of Titans. And it basically like breaks down the podcast episodes in book form, which is super cool. And then he does like a 5 bullet Friday. I don't know if you're subscribed to that too, but
yeah, his email newsletter. Yeah.
Yeah. So Tim's the man, dude. He's definitely a different type thinker. Like certain things I love. And then other things I'm like, okay, he's out there on this one. So I'm not going to, I like it certain times, but I highly recommend the book and I got to finish it. I'm only halfway through.
Cool. Question 2. You want to rock out?
Sure. Question 2. If Corey and Rye gave you a check today for $50,000, tax free, it's just like, here you go, dude, do whatever you want with it. How would you spend it or invest it and why based on where you're at in your current timeline?
I'd honestly probably just put some of it in index funds. Maybe I'd throw some of it into syndication. I don't think there's anything. Hopefully you guys weren't looking for a crazy answer here, but like now that I actually do have cash flow like that quite regularly, I'm making this decision a lot. And oftentimes it's overwhelming. I'm like, oh, I would buy a duplex or a triplex, but I'm like, if I were to actually commit and handshake deal and you guys only gave me that $50K, if I were to buy like a triplex, now I have to go through all the legwork of like finding one in the right location for the right price. Like, honestly, at this point, I'm just going to invest in more passive things. That sounds like you guys are also kind of leaning in that direction. So yeah, I mean, probably a mixture of those two.
Cool. I have 2 questions. No surprise off that. First one is, if you don't mind sharing, like between all your 18 streams of income, how much do you net a month? I know it'll vary, but like, and if you're not comfortable, don't share it, but just maybe like a ballpark of like, hey, when you saw a certain number, you're like, damn, I kind of made it. Like I'm doing well for myself. You already talked about the $1.5 million net worth. Just so curious of like monthly cash flow, what maybe like an average month.
Yeah. So I'll just tell you last year to this year, because it's honestly been like an absolutely insane jump. So last year was right around like 32K a month in net. I made just around 400. This year it's between 80 and 90 a month.
Damn.
So you're saying their $1.5 million net worth was actually you're going to make about $1 million in 2022. So that's like,
it's unbelievable.
That's amazing. Congratulations, man. Like, I'm so happy to see other people that are like doing better than us, that are younger than us. I don't get envious at all. I really don't. I think it's amazing. And like, I think that it's like something that we're just wanting to work towards and learn. I don't care who you are, how old you are, to learn from somebody that's doing this is just super cool. So that's awesome.
It's incredible, dude. That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. I love it. I'm glad I asked that.
Yeah, we have a friend who's 28 who's doing something similar in like a whole nother sphere, and he told me he was making like 80K a month. Like I was on the phone with him, and I was like, dude, I gotta get you. He doesn't buy real estate at all. I was like, dude, I gotta get you to buy real estate because like this is how you build it. Like build the 80K a month,
or until you keep it.
Exactly. Yeah, you keep it, right? So,
sheesh. Okay.
Yeah. You had a second question.
Shit. I don't know. There's a question. Oh, yes. So for your syndications that you get into, we didn't touch on this. How do you vet these? Like, I know, dude, you have the cash, right? But like, we have a lot of people that are like, hey, I want to invest into something super passive. How are you vetting out these syndications that you jump into and to know it's a good deal? Is it a family friend or someone that you trust? Everybody can make anything look pretty. We know that. So how do you find the right deal to jump into?
I am a big referral guy. So if I have a close friend who has taken the leap before me, I kind of let them, I guess, be the canary in the coal mine. All of the syndications I've invested in, though, have been highly recommended by multiple friends in the space who are, more experienced, have more money than me. And so I'm like, okay, I trust you. I had a call with both of the people who ran the syndications, and they seemed like genuine people. Started following them on Instagram and YouTube. And I'm like, okay, these guys know what they're doing. They've been at this for a long time. I like kind of their business mind, and it made me feel comfortable. But the first thing, like that first point of entry to me, was referral. So that's usually how I operate.
Cool.
Cool. Love it. We can go a little rapid fire. I know you're cut for time here. So question 3 of the core 4, what has been your biggest mistake in your investing journey and how have you learned from it?
Oh man. Let's see. My biggest mistake.
Do you make mistakes, dude? Like what's going on?
I do. I'm trying to think of a good one because and this sounds so like woo woo, but I always do try to like look back at mistakes. I'm like, okay, that was a good mistake because now I'm not going to make that same mistake again in the future. In terms of like size of investments, maybe the first mistake was when we got really trigger happy after we bought our first property. I mentioned we bought that triplex down in Connecticut, and then we bought a duplex, and then we bought a duplex, then we bought a triplex. Like this was in a year. We bought like 11 doors. It was crazy. And I was just like, oh man, like I'm crushing it. I'm doing so good. I'm the real estate man. And we ended up actually selling off 2 of those properties. So one of the triplexes, one of the duplexes, because I think we just kind of looked past that. It wasn't in the best area. We're like, we could probably get okay tenants here. Ended up just being kind of in a more rundown area. It was really hard to find quality tenants. So we settled for tenants, ended up having problems with these people. Like some people were like really late on rent, calling for problems all the time. And we, fortunately it ended up not being like a huge financial catastrophe because the market has just been so awesome. But, if we invested in any normal year, we probably would have got a little bit more burnt. But yeah, we just got super trigger happy and thought we were on top of the world, just like picking up property left and right. And it ended up not working out.
I hear you on that, man. I'm thinking about selling my property, one of the properties that I have right now, because I just got a notice from the township that I got to spend $13,000 to fix the sidewalk. So I'm literally about to jump through the phone.
Oh my God.
But, we're good. So anyway, let's not get into it. But question 4.
Question 4 is, this is my favorite question. So what do you want your legacy to be? So basically, why do you get out of bed every morning to do what you do? What's your like overarching why?
So I honestly love helping people. Like I like letting other people use my knowledge, my failures, my expertise to realize their own goals, their own dreams. Like we've had a few people who have gone through our like flagship course. It's called E-Printables. It's like how to create and sell printables on Etsy and Shopify. Some people are making like $150K a year, quitting their jobs. Like there is no better feeling to me than seeing someone who's done that, or even smaller wins, even someone who's like, hey, I'm making like $100 a month right now. This is life changing for me. Like I'm able to like be a little less stressed out about groceries. So for me, honestly, like a lot of it is just helping people. And the more that I've kind of just like put myself out there, I used to be like really secretive. I didn't want to give away my, like all my secrets. And like, I was like, I know how to do this. I shouldn't tell other people. But the more that I've given, it sounds weird, and you guys have probably heard this before. The more that I've given, I've gotten it back like in multiples. I've started to make more money, help more people, have a more positive impact when I just started like sharing everything for free. Not everything, obviously, but like just started telling people what I was doing, telling people my journey, like telling people the tricks of the trade and like how exactly I did this thing to be successful at it. And yeah. Honestly, that's a driving force for me.
It's not weird, and it's not like people think that it's like, oh, you just want to help people. Like it's corny to say that. And like, I really feel the same way too. And it's only because as you do things and you achieve your goals, you realize it's possible. And there is a selfish aspect to it because making other people feel good makes you feel good, right? Like, let's just call it what it is. And I've learned that like helping other people and seeing them achieve their journey, it is to help them, but it's also like, damn, like I did something meaningful, right? So I love that answer. I think it's an answer that a lot of people talk about. When you get to a certain level, you really do want to help others around you. And even at the small levels that we've hit of achievement, we want to help other people too. So that's the whole point of the podcast. Yeah. So looks like we made it to the last drop. And
what I was going to say, one thing I do want to add, because this kind of shifted my whole mind frame. And I was talking to, I don't know if it was during our interview or at his event, I was talking to Ryan Pineda, big real estate guy, for those who don't know him, on Instagram and YouTube. And, most people, their goal is financial independence. Like that's the top of the ladder for them. And that's people in my audience, a lot of people that follow me on social media, they want to hit financial independence. And Ryan's like, no, financial independence is the first step. After that, then you want to have enough money to, be able to take care of your immediate family. Like if your sister needs a house, you can buy her house, no problem. Like it doesn't even affect your net worth. And then the next step after that is to be able to help the world. And the reason I bring this up is because, I mentioned earlier, like 80 to 90K a month is a crazy amount of money. I wasn't even making that an entire year at my corporate banking job. And I used to have quite honestly, a decent bit of wealth guilt. I'm like, I'm making so much more than my friends and my family. Like, should I just be like donating all this? Should I just like stop and, drop all these different income streams? But that thing that Ryan said to me really stuck with me. I'm like, you know what? If I can keep grinding this out and just like keep making more and more money every year, and I know deep down I'm a good person. I do give every single month. Like I have an automatic donation. But, if I can get to the point where I can just like buy my, step parents, or not step parents, my parents-in-law's houses, and I can buy my mom whatever she wants. Like I buy her a new car, I can buy my brother whatever. If I can get to that point where it's like, oh, I can just drop 50K here, doesn't even matter. That would be an amazing point. And even getting beyond that level to where I can just like donate $100,000 to like a school in need or something like that. That's where I'm aiming for now. And it really helped me kind of get over that wealth guilt.
Cody, that for me is actually like one of the most meaningful things I've heard, because I am in the same position where I've watched my dad work so hard his whole life, and he does very well. Like there's nothing, nobody's feeling bad for him. Right. But like there's levels of wealth that I want to get to the point where I can just give them whatever they want and need to retire, whether they need it or not, So
Exactly.
I'm in the same position where it's like to be able to do that. And I think it'll happen within the next 10 years. I know it'll happen within the next 10 years. It's just like, yeah, I saw a baseball player on like TikTok or something like this, like somebody who got signed to the majors, like just pay off his parents' mortgage. And I was like, oh man, like that is, I'm not making $4 million a year, so I can't really do it right now, but it's amazing. So we're with you on that. But the last drop. So what advice would you give your younger self, Cody? Like if you can go back in time, talk to you're 26. So maybe your 15-year-old self. I don't know. Like what advice would you give him if you had a chance to talk to him?
Probably to start focusing even earlier on the passive income stuff, the systems. I learned a lot and it was great, like doing the active income stuff, but it can only persist for so long before you get burnt out. And like, luckily I wasn't in it for that long, but during the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, I was working like 16, sometimes 17-hour days, sometimes 18-hour days. And that's because, I was working my full-time job, and then I was doing all these other random things like freelance writing, podcast editing, video editing, email marketing, affiliate marketing for people. Like it was just too much. And it was all things that I was trading my time for. So if I could go back in time, I would have just like tried to learn some kind of a niche skill, maybe start to create content around a niche skill I was interested in, maybe start to create content around that, like a YouTube channel or a blog or a podcast, start to create a course, start to build the systems earlier. I really wish that I think it probably took me till I was about like 23 to learn that, which again, I was really fortunate. I was young, but I started entrepreneurship back when I was like 18. So it was like 5 years. I was just like hustling my butt off, and I could have had it easier.
I think that's probably the same way I'm going to answer the question if someone asks me that in like a year or two, and they'll just to see where you're taking. It's like, I don't think we've done a great job of like we have done a great job in certain respects, but I'm looking at we are like narrowing our focus and systematizing and offloading stuff. Like I'm sick of saying, hey, we need to offload this, we need to do this. And then we just like, don't do it. And we just talk about it. We're like, no, well, Corey will do this. Jake will do this. All this. It's like, no, dude, we none of us should be doing this. We should be paying someone else to do this shit. So I don't want to look back and regret it. And I'm glad you answered it that way, because there are only so many hours in a day. Right. And like, it's pulling yourself out of the business and focusing on like moving the chess pieces around, right. To scale more revenue. So I appreciate that answer, and learning from a young cat like yourself, dude. It's like, just your whole story. I just want to thank you for today, man, because you're doing things that we are in the process of doing or like aspire to do. And it's so cool to see someone that's just so with it and with the times, and you're trying a bunch of different things. Like here's things you like, here's things you don't, but you're not making excuses about why you can't do something. You just go try it. And if it doesn't work, you do something else, and you're seeing such success. So thanks for sharing it. It's super inspiring to me. So.
Well, appreciate you guys having me on. I hope that your listeners, your viewers got a lot out of this. And, this is kind of a new thing for me, like sharing stuff like that, like talking about income. And I know that at the end of the day, it helps people kind of realize what's possible, but it's still like even saying stuff out loud like that, like makes me feel like weird, but I know it helps people at the end of the day. There are going to be haters. I'm sure you guys have gotten your fair share. Like anytime I get a media article blow up, people are just like, F you, like whatever.
Oh my God.
But I know that there's a much larger percentage of the population that sharing this type of stuff helps. So I really hope I help some people out there today.
Yeah, man, it's been amazing. You're the man, so we appreciate it. But it's funny that you said the haters. Somebody called us evil in a comment once. Comments once because we own real estate. So I guess that's we have to reconsider. I don't know, but Cody, man, this has been amazing. If people want to learn more about you, your story, follow along, network. Maybe because you maybe need new friends. I don't know. Like, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Well, if you're listening to this podcast, I know you're a podcast listener, so go check out our podcast at the FI Show, the Financial Independence Show. You can follow me on Instagram at Cody D. Berman. And if you're interested in like all things digital products, you can check out my company, goldcityventures.com.
Cool, man. Thank you so much once again for coming on the show. It was a pleasure. You dropped a ton of knowledge on us. And selfishly, this is one of my favorite episodes. You gave us a lot of action items and action steps to take from here to boost our business and give back even more. So appreciate you.
Well, Corey and Ryan, appreciate you guys. And we'll have to do this again soon. I'm going to have you guys on my podcast. So stay tuned, listeners.
Can't wait, brother. Can't wait.
Thanks for tuning in this week to the Weekly Juice Podcast. If you liked what you heard, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, and share with friends. The more ratings we get, the more ears we'll get on our show. And in turn, we'll be able to provide you with more high-quality guests. You can also find us on Instagram at Weekly Juice Pod, where we post daily tips and tricks and document our own journey towards financial freedom. Make sure to tune in every Wednesday to get your weekly juice.